Sorry about that. I promise I test ran this before. Okay, so let's try that again. First of all, I went with an organization called Let's Start Talking. So I will go just to quickly define what that is. It is a Christian mission organization founded in 1980. They, um, the directors of the program went to school with Dad, so we're a little bit connected there. It's really, really good organization. I love what they let us do. They offer one-on-one English classes, and it's more like a tutoring session, and it's for free. And that is the big draw for a lot of the students or any people that come. Free English practice. English is an incredibly valuable skill for the whole world, and the whole world recognizes that. We use the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke, for the first book. There are 31 lessons in there. 5 weeks is not near enough time to finish 31 lessons, so multiple teams come throughout the year and stay for however long they can, and the students get to continue their spot in the book with those new teams. After they finish the Gospel of Luke, there are other books that they use that use more advanced English or just different stories, progress them along the way. They choose Luke because Luke was writing to people who didn't know God, and we're speaking mostly to people who don't know God, so it fits. This is supposed to be a very casual kind of tutoring session. They don't want us to present ourselves as teachers and they're the students, and we create this hierarchy. They don't want that. They want friendly relationships that develop godly relationships that bring them to church if they can, and stuff like that. So we keep it very comfortable and welcoming. On the table, you can see there are some snacks right there. Those are like a Mexican peanut marzipan candy that I brought for all the students. So each time they come to a session, they get to have a snack and we talk about the culture a little bit. There's also a bucket of other snacks whenever they come in if they want something else. And we always start the sessions collecting just a little bit of information, like asking, where are you from? You always lived here. Tell me about your family. Do you believe in God? Do you go to church? Or in my case, we were at a university, so I asked like what their degree is, what do they want to do, and then I tell about myself too, so that it's making it comfortable and we're starting that relationship before we start talking about God. LST has projects all over the world, so there are domestic in the USA if you want. There's also online option, but there's also Argentina, Brazil, Italy, Germany, Poland, Ecuador, Japan, and South Korea. Why did I choose Korea? There's a lot of options. I've been interested in Korea since 2022. I kind of just stumbled upon the country and did a lot of research and just fell in love with the culture, and I wanted to know more. Some moving facts about them is that they do have the highest suicide rate of all the developed nations. It's really sad. They are an incredibly developed country. Their economy is thriving, but it's like too much work and no play of the extracted little boy. It's too sad. So very, very high suicide rate, not just among young people, also among the elderly too. But young people are especially pressured to do well in their society because it's so competitive. Korea is landlocked by ocean and then North Korea. So it's very, very competitive. Yeah. Roughly 20% of Korea is Protestant Christian, but I would say that that's kind of decreasing. I think the grandparents' generation that's when Christianity was thriving, but nowadays the university students and below, it's just not there anymore. Yeah, we'll get more into that in a little bit. Yes, a busy people seeking true purpose. That's the best way I could sum that up. I love talking with them though because they're very respectful people. That is their culture. It's very honor, shame, and respect people, collectivist culture. So they'll always listen to you. They won't just walk off or something. And they're open and they're willing and they're hungry. That's what I saw a lot. So just a reminder for everyone where Korea is on the map, because I know we don't really talk about it that much. There's Japan. Maybe we know Japan a little bit more. And Korea is this tiny part right here. That white line is the border of South Korea and North Korea. And Seoul is about 35 miles from that border, but it's very, very safe. It is the heaviest militarized border in the world. So it's still safe. Some more statistics. These are what the streets look like. It is very, very crowded people. The population of Seoul itself is about 10 million people, but if you kind of take the capital area, Seoul capital area, there's about 26 million people, and that makes about half of the population of the entire country. New York on steroids. So, yes, the air is very smoggy. It's very, very packed. Apartment sizes are tiny, tiny, tiny. And yet these people work all the time, work so hard. In fact, the government had to limit the work week to 52 hours because everyone would work overtime so much. And even then, sometimes companies don't listen to that limit and the employees work more than that. Yes, even the students, I talked to so many of them and they were getting like 3 hours of sleep every night, 4 hours of sleep every night, and they live 2 hours away from the university, and it's hard. So Seoul has been the capital since 1394 in the Joseon dynasty. And that being said, there's lots of really cool historical sites to visit in Seoul. We went to some of those. A lot of those pictures are posted on Facebook for you to go see later if you want. This is the university I went to, Kangso University, previously known as Korea Christian University. They just changed that name within the past year or two, and that's just to name it after the district it's in. It is still a Christian university founded by Christian missionaries. And there's some connected history that I was so excited to learn about before I went on the trip. So this building, the top gray one, it's kind of small font. It says Daniel C. Hardin. He was a professor at Abilene Christian University. He was my dad's professor. Lubbock Christian, never mind. I'm sorry. You went to both, so I got confused. Okay. And he was in Korea for several years as a Christian missionary, and he helped found that school. He was the first dean of the theological college. Also, my great-grandfather on my mom's side was an elder of the church in Portales who helped sponsor him to go on all the mission work. So he helped manage his finances. He was a banker. So my grandma sent me these pictures that they had from Dan Hardin and his wife and his girls. Some of them were adopted. Yeah, so it's really sweet to find that kind of family connection there. So this building here is part of that Daniel Hardin building. And this is a branch called the Book Cafe. And this is where we were, where we held our sessions at. As you can tell, it's a beautiful campus. I loved it so much. And it's a very cozy environment. I would do homework there happily. And this is the name of the school in Korean. Let's see, this is our first day at the campus. We are so happy. As you can tell, our smiles are just, yeah, we're so happy. So this is inside the book cafe. We're setting up our equipment. We'll see more of that later. And that's just the sign for the school. These are pictures of us with our one-on-one sessions with the readers. I didn't take many pictures of their faces for privacy reasons, but these are all different people. And it's so amazing to hear all the different stories that they have. And yet there's all the common denominator of needing God. And it helped grow my faith so much getting to talk with them. I had such a fun time. It's an hour long, and some of you may be thinking, I know I was before I went, how do you talk with one person for a whole hour with one lesson and keep it entertaining and fun and not just a lecture, not feel like the teacher-student vibe. But it was so much easier than I thought, especially after a lot of prayer. All right. So how it works exactly is I have a book, a Luke workbook, and the students also have a Luke workbook. We give it to them on their first session, and there'll be a picture of an example lesson inside. At the end of the program here, if you want to come look at it, you can. There's lots of notes in there. It's really fun. Before my team, and my team was just me and one other girl this time, arrive, our coordinator over there sends out a sign-up sheet for the students about like a month or two ahead of time. And they book the 1 hour sessions. They can sign up for multiple sessions at a time. So both Rachel and I had students for 3 hours in one sitting. And that was really interesting. It was good. So we have that from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And then they gave us a 2-hour lunch break to go do lunch with the students if we want, or go explore something, or take notes. We had lots of information to track. And then at 2 o'clock from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we were busy with the students as well, doing more sessions, Monday through Friday. And yeah, so when you see on the right-hand side that we had 35 students, that sounds like it's not very many, like maybe one student per day for 5 weeks. We were there for like 35 days, right? Well, it's again because students sign up for multiple sessions, and we want that. Sometimes they will sign up twice in a week for every week. And that's what helps build that relationship. So we were actually having full schedules for the first 3 weeks for sure. The 4th week kind of started to drop off because it was finals week for them. And the 5th week, it was amazing to see students coming back to university just for the sessions on summer break. So yes, I was very, very thankful for so many students. And again, free English speaking practice is the draw for them. Some of them don't even know that it's a Bible thing. It's just free English practice, and it's incredibly valuable over there. So they come, that's the draw, and it's pretty successful. And the point is to develop those relationships. All right, so some interesting statistics that I really love looking at. Again, 35 students. I had 20 of those, and Rachel had 15. Sometimes the students drop out because they summer break. Only 9 of mine were Christians, and we're going to talk about what a Christian means over there. 11 of them were agnostics, and that means sometimes they've heard of God, but they don't really know about God, and some of them have not heard about it at all. They don't know anything. Rachel had similar statistics, 15 students, 6 Christians, 1 Catholic person, and 8 agnostics. Something interesting about this too is traditionally, culturally, from way back long ago, Korea was a Buddhist nation, and also Shinto from Japan and China influences, but we didn't come across any of that. There are like Buddhism temples, but it's just for sightseeing for the most part. None of the students were that. They either were Christians or nothing at all. So if you calculate the percentage, that means that 54% of the students don't follow God at all. For the Christians, some of them are like we are and how we try to be. But if you define it by baptism, a lot of them say that they are Christian, and we'll ask, oh, okay, well, have you been baptized? Do you go to church? Oh, sure, okay. Yeah, I was sprinkled when I was 3. Like, well, and do you go to church? Not really. Well, so we're gonna talk about that later. So yeah, thank you for coffee. So a lot of those Christians, yes, they know about God and they believe in God, but it's not quite like the Bible meant for it to be. And again, some of them were going to church and were active in the church, but just not very many. All right, so this is way too tiny. So after the presentation, you can come look at the book if you like. These are 2 different lessons. And when you see it, you may think, how do you spend an hour on 1 page? Well, again, it's lots of open-ended questions. So what we'll do first is, after spending maybe 5 to 10 minutes just talking about how was your day? What are your plans for the weekend? How's the semester exam going? All that stuff, making them feel comfortable. Then I will read a paragraph at a time or a section at a time, depending on their fluency level of English. And then they'll repeat it. They'll read it out loud. And we'll go over any new words that stand out to them. We'll talk about the definitions. The book has a glossary in the back too. And then we'll go over some questions here. And after we finish that, there are some open-ended questions that the organization gave us here, and then we also studied this book before going and created our own open-ended questions. And sometimes we use those pretty like script-wise, but a lot of times we try to just make it natural and whatever comes up. And we learn a lot about their culture that way too. When we're talking about the birth of babies, I explain that we have baby showers in America. How do you guys celebrate the birth of a baby? And it's totally different and really fun too. And so it's so fun getting to swap those stories and cultures. these were two of my favorite lessons, lesson 2 and lesson 3. I think I'll explain why in a little bit when we get to some of their quotes. Lesson 2, just to sum up, is about the angel appearing to Mary. Pretty short, simple passage, but there's a lot you can unpack. This lesson 3 is when they're taking the census and the actual birth of Jesus. Another fun thing about this book is that it's simplified English. Like census is a complicated word. So they break it down to like they have to go check for the population or something like that. All right. Some cool stories. All right, so this was at one of our parties. Every week we have a party, which is anyone we can grab comes to it, and we play games. We bring food. We have Mexican food or South African food or Texas Roadhouse food, like some peanuts from there or something like that. Make it fun. We played Uno a lot and some card games. So yeah, and if you guys played charades or heads up, we practiced that a lot too. They had so much fun. And we really got to know the students that way. So Sejun is the person circled right here. He's a university student, maybe first or second year, I forget exactly. And when he came to his first session with me, he actually came a few minutes early. And I was still talking with one of my readers, and we were having a really deep conversation about God. Like we left the lesson, I'm opening up my Korean English Bible, we're scrubbing through all the verses, talking big theory, and he was sitting kind of like down the hallway, and I knew he could hear. And so after she left, I took a minute to write down some data, and then I said, hey, come on in. And he sat down and he looked at me and he's like, I didn't know this was a Bible thing. And I'm like, yes, it is. Surprise. Yeah. So when he gave me that reaction, like his face said it all. And I said a prayer because I'm like, God, you're going to have to help me a lot with this one because he seems so closed off. Usually the readers like try not to be rude. They'll try to be interested. Even if they didn't know it was a Bible thing, they'll be like, oh, okay, sure, why not? But this guy just, oh, he was not excited for it. I thought he was going to walk up and leave. But he didn't. And I explained it doesn't have to be, we're not going to push it on you, just practicing English. This is a fun story. We think it's historical. We have evidence it's historical. But besides that, it's just good to practice English. It's story format. There's characters. It's a setting. It's good to talk about. And so I convinced him to stay. And he was like, okay. But just so you know, I'm really not interested in Christianity. Okay, that's fine. First one, we started reading. He booked 2 hours. We stayed that whole 2 hours and went overtime. I never go overtime with the students because we have things to do. We have sessions booked and people, places to go. I had to stay overtime with him because he had so many questions and he was so interested all of a sudden. I left the lesson. I pulled out my Korean English Bible. We're digging into Revelation. We're talking about heaven and hell. We're talking about God's love. We're talking about bad experiences with the church. Why that doesn't mean you stop going. Why that means you should get your love and purpose from Jesus, not the church. The church is where you serve and encourage people. And then you got into the community. He had some bad experiences. Like there's some street preachers in Korea, but they are like the hellfire and brimstone preachers. And so he walks by and hears that condemning tone. And he's like, I don't like that. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm pretty sure what I do know about God is that he's supposed to be full of love, and these people are not showing me love. I'm not getting that. And so he wanted nothing to do with it. I explained that I'm sad that they did that. They're not perfect either. Jesus is, and Jesus loves you a lot. And so we talked for 2.5 hours, almost 2 hours, 15 minutes about all of that. And I was so thankful because I prayed so hard for it. And he was probably one of the most, probably top 3 most receptive people after all. I sat down and I was like, oh no. And we left. I'm like, oh yes. So yes, I was so thankful. He stayed, he came back for the parties with us. I thought we would never see him again at the beginning, but he came back every time, had so much fun. We invited him to church. Unfortunately, we didn't get to stay long enough to make sure he came to church. We had to come back here. Yes. Do you have a question? This guy was fluent in English. A lot of the students watch movies or read books, a lot of movies and music, and he had a British accent just because he watched Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Never been to Europe or anything, just that's how he learned English. So amazing, amazing British accent. I was very confused. But yes, we had a great conversation. All right, another student I want to point out is Sabin. She's so fun and very, very open and very, very curious. Um, she doesn't know much about Christianity, but she kept asking questions. And some of the readers, they don't really ask questions. You have to keep like, oh, what do you think about this? Or what was your favorite part here? Or how would you feel if this was you? And you always have to ask. And they're kind of just like going with it. But she, like, I could hardly get a word in. She kept asking, like, okay, that's great. And asking me about my personal experiences and why are you a Christian? And why do I need God? And all these things. Lesson 1, 2, and 3, I mean, it goes through the beginning of Luke. So it's the birth of Jesus and how he's growing up. But she just skips straight to the end and she's like, I want to know about Judas. Like, all right. Yeah. And I guess she had heard about it a little bit. And I'm like, that's kind of, yeah, spoiler alert. But so she was determined to talk about that, though. I tried to put it off and say, well, I think it'll make more sense if we start from the beginning. She's like, yeah, but I really just want to know about Judas. Okay. So we talked about Judas, and something that really puzzled her was like, Jesus still loved him? Yeah, he did. And did you know that Jesus knew it was Judas and he loved him in front of the rest of the disciples? Really? Yeah. And did you know Jesus does that for us too? And that we should do that for other people too. And so I don't know why she asked about Judas, but it really resonated with her. And I think God used that to show her how much he loves his people and the grace that he provides. So even though we skipped many, many chapters, that was the best one for her to start with for her. So yes, we actually spent time together on the weekend with her. She and another student took us around with a professor. We went to the DMZ with her, and yeah, that was really fun. The demilitarized zone between South and North Korea. You get to, yeah, we went to the reunification tower and learn about why they want to unify with them. And yeah, but it was so fun because we got to know her more on a personal level and see how she is outside of school, and she got to see the way we act outside of school and really develop those relationships. And that's the point of why we go. Also, this was one of the parties, but she came first and another reader didn't show up for a while. So we had a gap of like 30 minutes, and it was just her, myself, and my teammates. And I said, well, hey, we can go ahead and start the games if you want. There's some really fun ones that you can do with just 3 people. We can have snacks. Like, let's get started. And she's like, actually, can we do a lesson? And I'm like, sure. I was planning on a break, but sure. I was actually so happy to hear that she wanted to do that. And I like asked her again, are you sure? Like, we can do one. You're scheduled for tomorrow. Like, no, I want to do it right now if that's okay. I'm like, okay. So again, just like the drive that they have, we really don't have to push it on them at all. Not that we ever should do that, but she asks for it. We're supposed to be having a party and she wants to learn about the Bible instead. So I really loved being around that. All right. All of these quotes and questions I was actually asked. And when someone asks you, what's an angel? Which version do you want? So there's a lot of things. There's the English, like the language barrier that you have. Like, oh, what is Galilee? Like, oh, that's a place. Where is it? And so we pull out a map or we look it up on Google Earth and we see that those are actual places. Here's Nazareth, here's Jerusalem, here's Bethlehem. They traveled this way. And a lot of them were asking about like the Israelites and the Jews. Then we have to go back to Egypt and look at all those places too, which is so fun. And it's good for them to see that it's real and those are real places. So yes, we'll start with like, do you recognize this book? And I'll hold the Bible. And my one had both English and Korean in it so they could read it. And a lot of them will say, no, I don't know what that is. Okay, got to explain what the Bible is. And then you have to explain who Luke is. And I know the letter is called his name, but it's also the name of the guy who wrote it. And you have to explain who is Theophilus. That's a big word to say when you can't pronounce TH. So yeah, there's so many things you have to explain, and it's so fun because it makes me make sure I know things and I'm relearning things and making it stronger. So yeah, some of these are really interesting. Why do people love God? Why does God love people? What is baptism? Lesson 4, I believe, talks about Jesus being baptized. That's a really, really good can of worms. And so we'll get into what kinds of baptism, like sprinkle or just praying or the full dunking or anything like that. Why do you need to be baptized? What does water actually do? Or all of those things. Why did Jesus need baptized? What happened when Jesus was baptized? Who baptizes Jesus? Why does he baptize Jesus? And questions on and on and on like that. And I had one girl never heard anything about the Bible or Jesus, and so she asked me, "Is Jesus handsome?" I was like, well, there is a verse that answers that question. I don't think you're gonna like that answer, but yeah, so it makes you really think. A lot of the culture struggles with power and love. You can do both, because I'll explain that God is an all-powerful God, the only God, the most powerful God, can do anything, and he loves you, and he helps you. And when the angel appeared to Mary, he didn't force that on her. At the end of the passage, Mary said, "I am your servant. Let this thing you have said happen to me." So Mary had a choice. God didn't force her to do that. It also says that God was pleased with her, and God will help her, and God will be with her. So all those things that say God is powerful and God loves you, that's kind of stands out in their brain, because all throughout secular history, power is usually abused. Emperors or kings abuse the power. And so this was a really good point to stand out. Yes. Another thing was being so humble, because that culture is like pride and honor centered for the most part. And so when Jesus is born in a cattle box, they're really confused. Like, the son of a god is born where? Why? That's because God wants to show people that he can relate to everyone and he loves everyone. Doesn't matter your social status. Social status is a really, really, really big thing over there that drives the suicide rate, because if you're not at the tippy top, you're out. You're worthless. Tippy top is a hard place to be. So that was a really good lesson. That's lesson 2 or 3. And where God chooses Mary, one of the Christians, she's very involved in the church and the university projects, but still the depth of Christianity is, everyone has room to grow. And one of those places was, she said, I want to be chosen like Mary. Like, I would love if God chose me. I'm like, what? Guess what? He does. And so I got so many Bible verses flipping through and saying, here, you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. And so, yeah, it's amazing how God opens those conversations. Those aren't in my script of the book. You just start talking with them and they ask you questions and God shows you how to answer. And there's a lot of things that I feel like we take for granted, or at least I do. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I am chosen. That is really cool. I'm glad that we are chosen people. All right. And another student, he said both of these last 2 quotes. We were getting near the end of the book and he was just amazed. It's like, I have to follow this. How can people, yeah, this is amazing. And I said, I'm glad you see it that way, because a lot of people know these things, but they don't do it. And we talked about the Pharisees, and he was so confused and a little agitated. He's like, how can you know this stuff and not do it? This is amazing. Like, he felt so much gratitude for God sharing this with his people. He's like, I have to do this. This is something like nothing else. This is the only thing that gives me purpose in this crazy society. I have to do this. I'm like, you're right. You're right. We all need to feel that way. Yep. Yeah. All right. So part of the purpose of LST is to connect these students with the church because the church is on campus. It's part of the main building, but students are not required to go to church. They're required to go to chapel, but that's not the same as Sunday morning service. So we try to connect the church and the students, and the church was amazing and helped us do that a lot. So these two ladies are from the church, and one of our party days, they came with sandwiches that they made. They were delicious, fancy sandwiches, all the toppings. And I didn't post the picture here, but they played the card games with the university students. So yeah, it's so friendly, so lovely. We really enjoyed it. After church on Sunday, that is not a poker table. If you look closely, that's not what it is. They have really cool things called board game cafes because everyone's houses are so tiny. There's no space to play a board game. So they have board game cafes. So the church went to one, and this is a game where you race to build a kebab in the right order, depending on what the card is. I know, I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry. But yeah, we had really lots of fun with the students and the church. So yes, this is Pastor David. He's the pastor of U Church, is what it's called, the University Church. He picked us up from the airport. Amazing, hardworking guy. He's the university professor for the basic theology. He also is the minister for the church, and I don't know exactly what it's called, but he's in charge of overseeing a middle school, like the Christian, counseling kind of for it. So he's very busy man, very generous, and he copied his sermons. He translated them into English for us every Sunday that we were there, so that my team and I could still listen. We were very touched by that. This is some of the students that we went with. The first Sunday, we walked the Han River. The Han River is the main river that goes through Korea. And yeah, ice cream after the park. Amazing, just connecting, again, students with the church. Very good connections. I'm so glad that the church is that active and really tries to see the students. Last but not least, I'm sure some of you are wondering, my favorite student. For those who don't know, this is my fiance, Donggu. So his story is very cool. He's second year at university. And the first year he was there, he met Pastor David because of the university course, the basic theology. And he just noticed that Pastor David was different. He was kind, even though other people aren't, to him. And he's so humble, but he is so amazing at the same time, but he's always so humble, and I experience this whenever I say, oh, good job with this, you did so good. And he always says, by God's grace. It's by God's grace, every time. And yeah, helpful with everything, just anything, amazing Christian example. And he noticed this and was so curious that for his writing class, he wrote a research paper on Pastor David. Why is he different? How is he different? And then he turned it into his professor, and his professor read it and said, you should really show Pastor David this. That would mean a lot. And so, okay. So he showed it to Pastor David. Pastor David was very touched. He said, you should really come to church. So a few months later, after his schedule kind of freed up, he started coming to church. In Korea, you don't just show up to church. You really have to have a connection. That's the way their society works. If you don't know anyone, you don't go. And even in big parties, you stay with your friend group. So at the parties that we had, we really had to work to mix everyone, bring it out of your shell, and don't just stick with the one person you know. Get to know everyone. It's all right. So anyway, he went to church because he knew Pastor David. And then it's been that was last year. So last year. And this year, Pastor David has a Bible study specifically for new Christians. So I forget if it lasts 3 months or 6 months, but they do, after the worship service, those students go with Pastor David and they start studying just on what it means to be a Christian, so that when you're baptized, you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting into. So he finished that, and the timing just so happened, thank you God, for him to be baptized while I was there. And so I got to see that, and it was absolutely amazing. It was him with 3 middle school students, his middle school students, Pastor David's middle school students. And this is how they did it on Sunday morning service. They all confess that Jesus is God, and then afterwards they go to the baptistry. It's a bit of a walking distance, so that's why they separate that. And full water baptism, and just so amazing to see, so beautiful. While we were there, some of you may recognize this man right here. This is Mr. Tim Burrow. He's the president of the Sunset International Bible Institute in Lubbock, Texas. He married his wife from Korea, South Korea, when he was there. And so he comes back to visit, not only to get groceries for her that you can't find in America, but also to check on some of the churches in Korea. So it just so happened that he was there and we got to meet up with him. And Jungkook got to come with us to that too. This man is Sang Young, and he does the Bible Correspondence Center, which is basically a branch from Sunset International Bible Institute. They have a branch there, and he's the director of that program. I had been in correspondence with him since last year. So I finally got to meet him in person, and Tim Burrow was staying with him. So it was just amazing timing of all that. Very, very thankful to meet so many amazing people while we were there. All right. That's all I've got for you right now. If you want to see more of like the fun pictures, what we did on the weekends and stuff, those are all posted on our Facebook. This is the Facebook title. You can write it down on your phone if you want. I'll take questions if you have any. Yeah, I really, really want to thank you guys so much. I don't feel like I'm the missionary. I feel like we are. I can't go if you don't send, and it really takes two sides. So thank you so much. So much. I can never express how thankful I am to each and every one of you. So please just know that it's so meaningful. I really, really enjoyed it, and I learned so much, and I think it will change the rest of my life. So thank you so much. Yes. Sure. So speaking of how it will change my life, as you saw, I met my fiance, and so we are planning tentatively to get married in January. Hopefully he'll get to come here. He needs to graduate university first. He has a really good setup there, so we'll be there for 2 years probably. And then as soon as his green card works out, probably come back here. But South Korea is something that I always want to keep in my heart and get to go back and learn from and help as much as possible. So mission work there in the future is basically a must for me. If it's God's will, I'd like to go there in the summers, or actually, depending on what kind of job I can get, visit in the school year. That way the students are there, and I get to talk with them and stuff. So yeah, this isn't a one and done thing. I'm very, very thankful because I really believe that God is using it to change my life. So yes, thank you so much. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, it's very small. I wish I could tell you a number. I did not write that number down, but it is very, very small. I would say probably about the size of Lubbock Christian University. It's very that kind of cozy feeling. It's not like Texas Tech or something like that. Yeah. Another part of that high suicide rate, there are 3 universities in Korea. That's all that anyone recognizes. It's the Ivy League schools. And if you don't go there, then you have to go to some other school. And those basically don't count. And this is one of those, but obviously it does count because it is a Christian school. That being said, the reason so many of the students are not Christians here is because they didn't make the cut for those top 3 schools. So they just end up going here. Yeah. For LST, it's not a college course, and credit is up to the professor. So what happened, there were 2 English professors, and one of the professors assigned the students this course. They said, you need to sign up for at least 4 hours, and then I'll give you extra credit in her course. So if the professors choose to use it that way, involve it in their curriculum as extra credit or something, they can. But this in and of itself is not a college credit course. Well, there are 31 lessons in here, and each lesson should take an hour. So it just depends on how often they come. And then after they finish this book, again, there are many other books for them to start. Yes, it could go for a very, very long time. Yes. They're all from Korea. So yes, there were international students there. There was many of them, a lot from Nepal in that area, and they are almost all fluent in English, I think. So they didn't feel the need to come. And I think they're not very curious about Christianity that much either. Most of the students live an hour away from the university or 2 hours. It kind of depends. And they do that every day. Get up at 4 a.m., on the road at 5. They stay really late. Yes, public transportation is amazing over there, thankfully. It's very, very crowded in the mornings and after school finishes. If you look on our Facebook page, you'll see me taking a picture like this with people like I'm so squished like this. So, but it's very smooth, very easy to navigate. That's what the students use for the most part. Very cheap, yes, very clean. Right, that's a really good question. And we did, but not during the session. I don't want to make the students uncomfortable. And I asked our coordinators before this started, the directors of our program, like, what do you think? Should I start it with a prayer? Can I end it with a prayer? And they said, just kind of feel it out because you don't want to make them uncomfortable, but it is a good thing. So kind of just see. And so what I did was I didn't start it with a prayer, end it with a prayer. I prayed in my head a lot. But then on one of the outings with the students in the evenings, we were getting dinner together and we were talking by the river and we're talking about fun things. And then we kind of just started talking about God. They brought it up and we talked for an hour or two after dinner, just talking about God. And we closed it with a prayer. We were feeling so thankful for how good God is and how much love he provides and how much grace he provides. And we all said a prayer like that. Um, Pastor David also came to our parties. He tried to. He's very busy. He came a couple of times. And there's one student who's going blind in one eye. And he's a Christian. And so I think maybe that's part of why he's only Christian, because he's struggling with, if God loves me, why does, yeah. So Pastor David prayed for him right there, and then he asked me to pray for him as well. And I think he seemed really touched after that, and I know I was very touched. So it's a case by case basis. Mhm. Mhm. Right. So you're right. Whenever I do this Christian, it's kind of the like, uh, I believe in God, and I sometimes go to church twice a year, and I was sprinkled, that kind of thing. But they do believe in God, so it's yeah. Things. I loved the food. It was so good, so spicy. But thankfully there were some non-spicy options. Also on the Facebook page, if you want to see my teammate eating octopus, you can do that. If you want to see me, yeah, it's on my phone. If you want to, yeah, tentacle and all, suction cup and all. So there's this missionary phrase I heard from someone, and it's always stuck with me because I feel like I really need it. And it goes like this: Where you lead me, I will follow. What you feed me, I will swallow. I had to repeat that in my head several times when I was there, but I did it. Oh, yes. So my teammate and I kind of coordinated that before we left, and I was able to bring some South African food. So there's some dried meat that we bring. I can't pronounce it properly, so I won't. Um, so we let them try that. There's also some South African tea that I brought. I tried to make some fudge. The ingredients over there are different. Did not work out. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, and we brought some Mexican food too, like dip mixes and things like that. We didn't get to try everything, but it's okay. And then I feel like there was one other thing we did, but I don't remember. Yeah. Was, they do. Their pizza is different than ours. There's a lot more like sweet things on the pizza. Well, like you've heard of pineapple on pizza. Just keep going in that direction. We didn't try too much of it. They tried not to scare us away. They do. They have McDonald's and yeah, and Domino's and Subway. We did have Subway. I've never had such a full sandwich in my life. I was so happy. Yeah. But oh, yes, my teammate, she was so funny. We have to compromise, right? Because we're different people and we want different things. And so one of the things she was just so excited to see was Costco. So one day we went to Costco and yeah, they had all the American food, but they also had bulk Korean food. And since their land is not very wide at all, they build stores high. So that was the first like multiple level story Costco I've been with a grocery cart that goes up an escalator because it's flat. It's like a ramp. Anyway, it was interesting after all. Currency is called won, WON. Yes, and the exchange rate is in our favor going there. Not by a whole lot though. So yeah. Not really. If you take your card, obviously you can exchange the dollars in the airport and then pay in cash if you want. The weather is like here, but humid, very, very humid. And they also just started their monsoon season, and it doesn't do the nice light drizzling rain. It's pouring rain. And it's also it's smog because it's such a compact city, there's pollution. And so the rain does not smell good like here. It's not fresh. Yeah. Actually, that's the interesting thing. So Korean pop culture is coming to America a lot. A lot of the like my generation, younger, a little bit older, are really listening to Korean music. But if you go to Korea and you ask them what artists they love listening to, it's American artists. So yes. Yeah. Yeah. Soccer. Yes. Actually, the church had a soccer game after church one day. The youth group went and played. And very competitive. I did not join. They asked if I wanted to, and I'm glad I did not. Yeah, they're very good at it. Not while I was there. They do have like their equivalent of our New Year's party is really, really big. And they also have a festival that's just for it's kind of like Thanksgiving, but thanking your ancestors. So like the family gets together and the younger people thank the older people very, very formally in costume and lots of food. And that's another interesting thing I didn't point out. The social hierarchy, not just in how well you do, but also your age is a really, really big thing. So even part of what makes connecting so hard for Koreans even in the university level, is if you are just 6 months older than someone or 1 year older than someone, it's as if we were like 20 years older than each other. That kind of attitude. So the whoever's older doesn't feel like they can be very open, and the younger one has to serve them, and the older one has to take care of them. And yeah, it's very hard to be open. And that's actually something I was talking with Donggu about. What he appreciates about American culture is how friendly all of you were on the Sundays he was here. He really appreciated that because it's hard to find there. That's why I'm so proud of their church, because I feel like they're just like you guys. They're very, very friendly, and that has to be on purpose because their social culture is just not like that. So yes, they're somehow they've made their medical system very, very easy and accessible. It's not the end of the world if you have to go to the hospital. You're not worried about the bill. They just take care of you very easily. So that is something I'm very thankful for. A lot of them still live with their families. That's also a culture difference. They stay there until they're married or until they just get an amazing job that they get to move for. Um, Sometimes it's their grandparents who send them there because their grandparents are Christians, but that faith just doesn't pass down like that. So, yeah, I had one girl. I was asking her, like, oh, okay, what do you know about the Bible? And she's like, not much. She's not a Christian. My grandma was a Christian, and I read a book when I was little, kind of this Bible story. Do you know Moses? I'm like, yes, I know Moses. Yeah, like how he built the ark and all right then. We're gonna have to back up a little bit. So that kind of situation. But yeah, so sometimes it's their grandparents who send them, and sometimes again it's just because they didn't make the cut for the top three universities. Um, I would say most of the people, the students in these kind of universities, if you're not in the top three, actually there's pressure either way. If you're in the top three, it's very, very difficult. The top three universities for a reason. So you have that kind of mental pressure. But also if you didn't make it, you're bearing a lot of shame for your family because you didn't represent well, you didn't make the status higher, you didn't do those things. So yeah. No, because the Christians don't really share their faith that much because again, it's so hard to be open. So a lot of we met two students who both went to the same church and didn't know it. It wasn't this church, it was somewhere else. They lived in a similar hometown and they both went to church and they didn't know it. So same situation on campus. It's just not easy to make friends. Thankfully that those cultural rules didn't really apply to us. I was very curious to see if, like, once they found out I was younger, if they would treat me different, or if I was older, if they would treat me different. But they didn't. I got to pull the foreigner card, the American card, and I used that to my advantage and to be friendly and to break that age barrier a little bit. So yes, yes, not all of them, but again, because it takes so long to open those relationships. But yeah, there's one in particular. Yeah, there's a few others too. Yeah, there's a few others too. Teammate Rachel, yes. Yeah, I video called her and I'll probably send her this presentation too and she can critique it a little bit. She's from San Antonio and Austin. She lives in one and goes to school in the other, and I always forget which one it is. No, actually, that I saw. There was some security. I wouldn't call them policemen, but there was some security. Korea is a very, very, very safe place. It has one of the lowest crime rates in the world. Women and children go by themselves alone at night, no problem. You can leave your stuff. You can leave a wad of cash on the table and come back 3 hours later. It'll still be there, most likely. So I got used to doing that over there. I don't need to do that here. I need to remember that. Yeah. I do not. Um, Church of Christ is very, very small. There's a lot more Catholic than Church of Christ, I think, and something else, Presbyterian. That was the other really big one. But again, it's they kind of have a bad reputation a little bit for not being friendly. A lot of them use it as like a social club, um, or just for rules and no relationship. So, yeah. Mhm. It was founded by Church of Christ missionaries. Yes. And I went into their library and they have an English section, and I've seen a lot of those books on my dad's shelves. And I know those authors, they're American Christian Church of Christ authors from the 60s, 70s, 80s, all through there. They don't have a lot of new material, but yes, it was founded as Church of Christ with missionaries. And in the library, I didn't put the picture up here, but I have it on my phone if you're curious. They have a map on the wall for how Christianity was started through the Campbell movement and all those things, the Restoration movement. They have a map of that timeline and the people, and parallel to it, how the university started. So. Yes, and that is. Hmm. I can't tell you the numbers, but I can tell you the scale, which if you're in Seoul, the capital, which is where that university is, it's incredibly expensive. Everyone dreams to buy a house, and for 99% of the people, it will only ever be a dream. Um, it just doesn't happen. Everyone lives in apartments, and we're talking a big one would be about 900 square feet, big apartment. So most people live much smaller than that. When we went to Pastor David's house, it was a skinny hallway of a kitchen and then his bedroom. And he had a table set up in his bedroom for us to eat at. And I was so touched about it. So yes, housing is incredibly expensive. Food is not. I had a lot of food. Some of both. So yeah. Mm, yes. Yes. And a little below the ground as well. Lots of stairs everywhere. So many stairs. Yeah, that's why it's okay to eat so much food. Yeah, probably so. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys so much. So much.